Millions of people have watched the elevator footage. A young woman steps inside. She presses multiple buttons. The doors refuse to close. She leans forward, looks into the hallway, steps out, steps back in, moves as if someone is there, but no one ever appears on camera. Within hours, the internet decided something sinister had happened. But before the theories, before the speculation, there was a real person. Her name was Elisa Lam. Elisa Lam was a 21-year-old student from Vancouver, Canada. She was intelligent, creative, and active online. She wrote openly about her emotions and her struggles. Elisa had bipolar disorder. In January 2013, she decided to travel alone through California. She visited San Diego. She went sightseeing. She updated her blog. Everything seemed normal until she checked into a hotel in downtown Los Angeles. The Cecil Hotel had a dark reputation. Over the decades, it had been linked to crime, violence, and tragedy. Because of that history, many later assumed Elisa's death must also be sinister, but reputation is not evidence. Elisa checked into a shared room on January 26th. After a few days, her roommates complained about unusual behavior. She was moved to a private room. On January 31st, she was supposed to check out. She didn't. Her parents, who were in daily contact with her, became worried. Police began searching. No signs of forced entry. No clear evidence of struggle. Then investigators released the elevator footage, and everything changed. The footage shows Elisa alone. She presses several buttons. She waits. The doors stay open. She steps outside, looks down the hallway, hides against the wall, moves her hands in strange gestures. Then she leaves. She is never seen again. The video went viral, and instantly, theories exploded. Some said someone was outside the frame. Others claimed the elevator was being controlled. Some even suggested something paranormal. But here's what most viewers didn't know at that moment. Elisa had been diagnosed with bipolar disorder. Bipolar disorder can include manic episodes. In severe cases, it can cause paranoia, disorganized thinking, fear responses, impulsive decisions. Later, toxicology reports showed her medication levels were lower than prescribed. That detail matters because sudden medication changes can destabilize mood dramatically. Now, look at the video again. Does it look supernatural, or does it look like someone in distress? The elevated doors staying open were also questioned, but experts explained that pressing multiple buttons or activating the door hold function can delay closure. No hidden figure required. No ghost. Just mechanics. The real mystery wasn't inside the elevator. It was what happened after she left. Because days later, hotel guests began complaining about something disturbing. The water. Low pressure. Dark colored. Strange taste. Maintenance was sent to check the rooftop tanks, and what they discovered would shock the world. Days after Elisa disappeared, something strange began happening inside the hotel. Guests complained about the water. Low pressure, dark color. A strange taste. At first, it seemed like a plumbing issue. Maintenance was sent to the rooftop to inspect the large water tanks. Inside one of them, a worker made a horrifying discovery. Elisa Lam's body was found floating in the tank nearly 3 weeks after she vanished. The news spread instantly, and the theories multiplied. The tanks were located on the roof of the Cecil Hotel. Early reports claimed the roof door was locked. An alarm would sound if opened. The tank lids were heavy and sealed. If that were true, it would suggest someone else placed her there. But later investigation clarified important details. Access to the roof was possible. There were stairwells and fire escapes that did not always trigger alarms. The Cecil was not a high-security building. It was old, complex, imperfect. Impossible quickly became possible. Another Major point of confusion involved the tank lid. Some early media outlets reported it was closed, but investigators later stated it was open when maintenance discovered her body. That detail is critical. If the lid was open, the theory that someone sealed her inside becomes weaker. Instead, a more disturbing possibility emerges. She may have entered the tank herself. The official cause of death was ruled accidental drowning. There were no signs of assault, no fractures consistent with force, no defensive wounds. Toxicology results showed low levels of prescribed medication, no alcohol, no significant illegal drugs. Low medication levels in someone with bipolar disorder can trigger severe instability. Episodes of paranoia, impulsive behavior, disorientation. If Elisa believed she was in danger, even without external threat, her actions might have been driven by internal fear. The tanks were large cylindrical containers. To enter one required climbing a ladder and stepping inside. Once inside, climbing out would have been extremely difficult. The interior walls were smooth. The water level was high. If she entered voluntarily, even in confusion, escaping may have been nearly impossible. That's a key detail, often ignored. People focus on how she got in. Few consider how hard it would be to get out. Within hours of the discovery, online theories escalated. Some claimed staff were involved. Others pointed to the hotel's dark past. Some even suggested paranormal forces. But speculation moved faster than evidence, and once a dramatic version spreads, it's hard to correct, because mystery is more compelling than accident. Strip away the horror music, remove the online edits. What remains? A young woman traveling alone, managing a serious mental health condition, possibly experiencing instability, in an unfamiliar city, inside a large, aging building. Those factors alone create vulnerability. No hidden killer required. No supernatural explanation necessary. But even with the official findings, doubt didn't disappear. Because the elevator footage still felt unsettling, and questions about editing and transparency would soon add fuel to the fire. That's where the next layer of controversy begins. Even after the autopsy ruled Elisa Lam's death an accident, many people weren't convinced. And to be fair, there were details that felt unsettling. Not supernatural, but incomplete. When police released the elevator video, viewers noticed something strange. The time stump appeared to skip. Some moments seemed slightly slowed. Online forums exploded. Was something cut out? Was someone removed from the frame? Was police hiding something? Authorities later confirmed the footage had been edited before release, but not to remove a suspect. Segments were trimmed to protect the integrity of the investigation. The speed may have been adjusted. Still, the damage was done. Once viewers sense editing, trust drops, and distrust spreads faster than clarification. Another major controversy involved access to the rooftop. Early reports suggested alarms would trigger if someone opened the door. Later statements clarified that access was possible through certain routes without setting off alarms. The Cecil was not a sealed environment. It was a nearly century-old building with multiple access points. The narrative of impossible entry remained popular online, but the official investigation did not support that claim. Possible is not the same as easy, but it is not impossible either. Confusion about whether the tank lid was open or closed fueled suspicion. Initial media reports were inconsistent. Later clarification from investigators stated the lid was open when the body was found. But early headlines linger longer than corrections, and once a dramatic version takes hold, it rarely disappears. The footage still feels disturbing. Elisa appears afraid. She steps in and out. She looks down the hallway. She presses multiple buttons, but fear does not automatically mean someone was there. Severe manic or psychotic episodes can create intense paranoia. A person can genuinely believe they are being followed, even if no one is present. Without context, the footage looks mysterious. With context, It can look like mental distress. The difference depends on what you assume first. Years later, documentaries revisited the case. Tension was rebuilt. Music added suspense. Doubt was emphasized before explanation. For storytelling, that structure makes sense. But it can reinforce the idea that something larger was hidden. Emotionally, mystery is compelling. Factually, it may not be necessary. There are still unanswered questions. What exactly triggered her distress? Was she fully aware of her surroundings? Did something minor escalate internally? We may never know her precise mental state in those final moments. But uncertainty about mindset is not evidence of crime. It's a gap in personal understanding. And sometimes, gaps are simply that. There is a psychological reason this case refuses to settle. An accident feels random. Random feels unfair. Unfair feels unbearable. A conspiracy provides structure. It offers a villain, and villains are easier to process than fragility. But the evidence does not point to a hidden attacker. It points to a tragedy shaped by vulnerability. At the center of the Elisa Lam case are two narratives. One says, a young woman in possible mental crisis made decisions that led to accidental drowning. Other says, there must be something more. Only one of those narratives is supported by physical evidence. The other is powered by ambiguity. And ambiguity keeps stories alive. The real discomfort of this case is not the unknown hallway. It's the possibility that nothing dramatic happened at all. And sometimes that is harder to accept than a mystery. The Elisa Lam case became one of the internet's most replayed mysteries. But what does it really represent? Is it a ghost story? Hidden killer in a dark hotel? Or is it something more uncomfortable? The elevator footage is unsettling. A young woman alone, looking afraid, reacting to something we cannot see. The human brain hates incomplete information, so it fills the gaps. Online communities slowed the footage down, zoomed into shadows, replayed gestures frame by frame. Patterns were found. Connections were made. But pattern recognition is not proof, and repetition does not create evidence. When we strip away music, edits, and speculation, the confirmed details are simple. Elisa entered the elevator alone. No one else appears in the footage. Access to the roof was possible. The tank lid was open when her body was discovered. No signs of assault were found. The cause of death was ruled accidental drowning. These facts are not dramatic, but they are consistent. The explanation supported by evidence is not cinematic. It is human. A young woman managing bipolar disorder, traveling alone, possibly experiencing instability. In an unfamiliar environment, mental health crises can look frightening. They can look like paranoia. They can look like someone reacting to invisible danger. And that does not make the situation supernatural. It makes it tragic. This case persists because it sits at the intersection of mental health, internet culture, visual ambiguity, and a location with a dark history. It became more than a missing person case. It became a digital legend. But legends often grow larger than truth. We may never know exactly what Elisa was thinking in those final moments. We may never fully understand what triggered her fear. But absence of full understanding does not automatically mean hidden evil. Sometimes, tragedy is not dramatic. It is fragile, and acknowledging that fragility may be the most respectful way to remember her. The Elisa Lam case is not a paranormal riddle. It is not a secret government file. It is a reminder of how quickly narrative can outrun evidence, and how is Ali a real person can become a mystery instead of a memory. If you're interested in examining cold cases through facts rather than fear, if you prefer analogous over sensation, this channel will continue to explore stories where the loudest theory isn't always the strongest one. Because sometimes the real mystery isn't what happened. It's why we struggle to accept the simplest answer.